What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with the RK Outpost, and I wanted to talk about this article I found on IGN and why it just brings me back to everything that I feel is wrong with what Lucasfilm has done ever since Disney has taken over, and why I like the expanded universe so much better. And you can see right here by this headline, J.J. Abrams and Daisy Ridley on why there are no Midi-Chlorians in the Star Wars sequels. Spiritual versus scientific. And we're going to get into, exactly what they're saying and how they're basically just disregarding what George Lucas says and what's established in episode 1. And with the expanded universe, it takes things that George Lucas gave us in this world, and it does exactly what it's called. It expands upon those ideas, those theories, that lore. So something like Midi-Chlorians that's, mentioned in episode 1 and does seem very important for things, it takes that in a book like Darth Plagueis and really expands and explains and makes you appreciate it so much more. Something that you can delve into in a novel that you can't necessarily get into in a movie. And that's not to say that I want a movie to go in depth about how Midi-Chlorians work. Of course not. But the idea that you would just disregard something that is very clearly established canon in episode 1 on screen is silly. And it's why that I am so resentful against so many things that have happened in the sequel trilogy, because it's just one example. But let's get into this article about J.J. Abrams and Daisy Ridley. Evidently, they are the ones who determine why there's no Midi-Chlorians. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, J.J. Abrams and Rey actress Daisy Ridley have commented on why sequel trilogy ignore Midi-Chlorians. At a press conference in Tokyo, cast and crew were asked whether George Lucas' unexplored ideas regarding Midi-Chlorians will ever be explored in canon. The question was mangled in translation, but led to an interesting discussion nonetheless. Like many fans, it seems Abrams favors a more spiritual interpretation of the Force. In fact, this was pretty much only interpretation that existed for 2 decades, until George Lucas introduced the concept of Midi-Chlorians. In that film, it was proposed, get this, it was proposed that microbes inside the Jedi's bloodstream determine their sensitivity to the Force and their aptitude to manipulate it. The way they phrased that, it was proposed. No, that's what George Lucas said. That's what George Lucas said. It wasn't proposed. It wasn't an idea. It wasn't a theory. That's what George Lucas said. The Midi-Chlorian idea is in the movie, so it's part of the story, and everyone accepts it because it's what George wrote, and it's part of the lore, responds Abrams. Yes. And yet, what I remember when I was a kid, so what I thought of Star Wars is what he's saying. I saw the first film and Obi-Wan talks about the Force, how it surrounds all of us and binds every living thing together. And that feeling of that kind of power to me, as I've always felt a bit more powerful of an idea. The concept of Midi-Chlorians has proven extremely controversial among fans, many of whom complain that it takes a spiritual concept and makes it mundane. Abrams seems to agree, though he diplomatically stopped short of trashing the concept outright. And listen, like I said, if you read Darth Plagueis, if you actually think about it in terms that aren't just black and white, it's not taking away any of the spiritual aspect of the Force. All it is a way to gauge. It is a scientific way to gauge someone's Force potential, what they could potentially do in the Force. That's not to say that just because you have a higher Midi-Chlorian count that you're more powerful than someone automatically. Because we look at the lore and we look at Yoda, who had been training for nearly 900 years when Anakin was a Jedi Knight. Anakin was not more powerful than Yoda. Yoda was still more powerful in the Force than Anakin was at that time. Not because he had a higher Midi-Chlorian count, but because he had done training. He had a deeper affinity with the Force after all that time being a Jedi Master. So it doesn't take away the spiritual aspect of it. All it is it provides some kind of a simple explanation to determine someone's Force potential. I don't know why people are so hung up on Midi-Chlorians. It's not like anyone here is rejecting Midi-Chlorians, said Abrams, jokingly adding, except Daisy. He went on to explain, but the feeling of the Force it being something you can feel, you can draw upon, you can believe in, I believe it's a more powerful notion, and that's what I felt the Force was to me. But the beauty of what George created is we can all interpret it ourselves. I suppose, yes, everyone can interpret themselves. That doesn't give you a right to ignore it. Ridley also gave her interpretation. She explained that she sees parallels between the Force as depicted in the Star Wars movies and the Force that binds us as a species. To JJ's point, I think the beauty of what people love about Star Wars and what I love about being a human is we're all connected and everybody has their version of the Force. And I think people have it in different ways. So I think we're all blessed with a beautiful sensitivity. And that's the problem. That's what they're trying to move away from, is the fact they're just saying that anyone can use the Force. You don't have to worry about Force potential. Anyone can use the Force. It's fine. You don't need any training. You don't need anything like that. It's just, you just feel it, and it is. And that's what we saw in The Force Awakens. That's what we're seeing, I think, in parts of The Mandalorian. Until we get any more explanation, I suppose that'll have to wait. But this concept, these people come back with this concept that, oh, it's so amazing, anyone can use Force. It's not just based on bloodlines, and of course it's not. Midi-Chlorians are just something that is a way to gauge. And that being said, just like anything in your body, it can be inherited. You know, if my mom has brown eyes and my dad has brown eyes, there's a good chance I might have brown eyes, but I also might not. I might have blue eyes or some other recessive gene. You know, so the idea that, oh, only people of this bloodline have the Force, that's just not true. And in the expanded universe, you see that. And it can also just occur randomly. Do you have a higher chance to be Force sensitive if you have family members that are Force sensitive? Yes, that's true. And that makes total and complete sense to me. I'll take this off. I don't understand why so many people get hung up on this idea. Do I want to see an entire movie dedicated to the scientific explanation of Midi-Chlorians? No, obviously that wouldn't be great. But what they're doing and what they're saying is that the Force is for everyone. Anyone can use the Force. And when Obi-Wan says it surrounds us, binds us, yeah, all living things are connected to the Force. Absolutely, that's clearly established. That doesn't mean that you can just pick and choose. This isn't your fan fiction, even though you like to treat it as that. That's basically what The Force Awakens and everything from the sequel trilogy has been. It's been a fan fiction, and we're going to get more of that in Rise of Skywalker. And it's irritating. We've seen George Lucas's works be disrespected in such a grand way with the sequel trilogy. And again, if you want something that I feel does much more respect to it, read the expanded universe. If you want to learn more about Midi-Chlorians and a little bit more about how they affect the Force and things like that, read Darth Plagueis. It's a phenomenal book. It's not for everyone. It does get a little deep, but that's the beauty of it, is we have things that are deep in there that you can get into that more exploration if that's what you want. But to just go out like J.J. Abrams and Daisy Ridley have done and say, well, we don't like this, so they don't exist in the sequel trilogy, is asinine. And it's everything that's wrong. Well, it's not everything. One of the things that's wrong with Disney Star Wars, the crapping on George Lucas's ideas and his legacy. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Like I said, whether or not you like the concept, it's very clearly established lore. It's in episode 1. It's in The Phantom Menace. So let me know your thoughts about this below. I wouldn't even say I'm really angry. It's just like disappointed again. But let me know your thoughts. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this video out there, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.